If you practice a daily manifestation routine, you are actively keeping millions of dollars away from your physical bank account. You are currently infected by the most dangerous psychological lie ever created by the modern spiritual industry. You have been completely brainwashed to believe that you must perform complex daily routines and heal your financial trauma before you can finally manifest extreme wealth. This concept of spiritual healing is a massive biological trap specifically designed to keep you permanently locked in the working class. The elite ruling class does not want you to know that your financial trauma is a complete illusion. You do not have a broken relationship with money. You are simply running a faulty neurological program that constantly convinces you to look at your past. The spiritual teachers tell you to dig into your childhood memories and find the root cause of your poverty. They tell you to analyze your pain and make peace with your suffering. When you analyze your pain, you are giving your vital electrical energy to a dead timeline. You are taking dead memories and resurrecting them in your present biological state. You must completely stop trying to heal yourself. You do not need a spiritual hospital, and you do not need a psychological doctor. You are the supreme architect of your physical universe, and the architect does not waste time giving medical treatment to the dead bricks of a demolished building. You must adopt the psychopathic arrogance of the old money elite and recognize that you are already biologically perfect and completely ready to govern millions of dollars right now. The entire human society is economically structured around your continuous desire to be healed. If you suddenly realize that you are not broken, the entire self-help industry and the spiritual coaching market would immediately collapse. They need you to feel damaged so they can continue to sell you the temporary relief of their complex methods. They want you to believe that manifestation is a long and painful journey of self-discovery. The billionaires of this world do not go on journeys of self-discovery to acquire their wealth. They do not sit in circles and discuss their limiting beliefs with other terrified people. They operate from a cold baseline identity of absolute possession. They view money as a completely normal and boring aspect of their biological existence. When you wake up every morning and execute a desperate manifestation routine, you are actively confessing to the quantum field that you are currently poor. You are telling the blind machine of the universe that you do not possess the money because you still have to perform spiritual work to attract it. The real reason your routine keeps money away is because it biologically proves that you are separate from your wealth. The universe is a blind mechanical mirror that simply reflects your dominant assumption. If you assume you are a patient, the universe will mathematically guarantee that you remain a patient by sending you an endless supply of financial problems to heal. You must violently reject the identity of the broken soul. You must fire yourself from the exhausting job of working on yourself. Many weak individuals in the modern spiritual community claim that crying about your financial problems is a healthy biological release. They believe that shedding tears is a necessary balm for the soul and a safe way to release negative pressure from your body. This is a pathetic justification for biological submission. When you look at your empty bank account and you allow your physical body to cry, you are performing the ultimate act of neurological surrender. Crying is the exact biological signature of a defeated prey animal that has finally accepted its violent death. When you cry over your physical reality, you are telling your primitive nervous system that the three-dimensional illusion is stronger than your internal assumption. Your tears literally validate the power of your poverty. The blind machine of the universe reads your physical tears as a dictatorial command to generate more physical circumstances that will cause you to suffer. The physical matrix feeds entirely on your emotional friction. It wants you to feel sad, and it wants you to feel the temporary relief of crying because that cycle of pain and relief keeps you firmly trapped in the dimension of lack. A powerful king does not cry when the royal treasury is temporarily low. The king looks at the empty vault with complete and absolute dead eyes. The king knows that crying is a biological response reserved for the peasants who have no control over their physical destiny. You must completely eradicate the habit of crying over dead matter. To break this cycle of biological submission, you must learn to forcefully control your physiological reactions. When the three-dimensional world attempts to break you and the urge to cry rises in your chest, you must execute a ruthless dictatorial override. You must consciously force your physical eyes to remain completely dry. You must manually force your physical chest to remain completely still, and you must slow your breathing to a cold and calculated rhythm. You look directly at the financial disaster, and you project an aura of heavy psychopathic boredom. You refuse to give the dead situation the honor of your emotional response. By refusing to cry, you are sending a massive shockwave of authority directly into the quantum field. You are proving to the blind machine that its physical threats are completely useless against your new neurological architecture. The Matrix realizes that it can no longer extract the energy of suffering from your body. When the Matrix cannot extract your suffering, it loses its grip on your reality, and it is forced to collapse the state of poverty. Your cold biological apathy is the only impenetrable shield that the universe truly respects. You must treat your emotional numbness as your greatest financial asset. Another highly dangerous trap is the modern obsession with transmuting negative energy. Weak spiritual workers believe that when they feel financial terror, they must actively process the emotion and magically transform it into a positive frequency. They perform exhausting mental gymnastics, trying to find the hidden blessing in their poverty or trying to feel gratitude for their struggles. This process of transmutation is a massive waste of your electrical life force. Transmutation implies that the negative energy is actually real and that it requires your direct physical effort to change it. When you try to transmute your fear of poverty, you're actively fighting the fear. Fighting requires extreme biological energy, and whatever you fight will physically grow stronger in your brain. The old money elite do not transmute their financial fears because they do not acknowledge the existence of the fear in the first place. When a thought of financial lack enters their mind, they do not try to hug the thought, and they do not try to heal it. They treat the thought with complete psychopathic apathy. They look right through the negative energy as if it is a completely invisible ghost. They starve the negative thought to death by denying it any conscious attention. You must stop trying to be a spiritual alchemist who changes the dark into the light. You must become the cold dictator who simply refuses to acknowledge the dark. When you feel a negative emotion regarding your finances, you must drop your shoulders and completely ignore it. Your profound indifference will cause the negative emotion to die of absolute starvation within a matter of minutes. The teacher Neville Goddard clearly explained that the three-dimensional world is a dead and delayed mirror. It is merely the physical manifestation of your old internal assumptions. This means everything you currently see around you and everything you have experienced in your past is completely dead. It is a biological fossil. When you attempt to heal your past financial mistakes, you are literally trying to perform medical surgery on a dead fossil. You are digging up the bones of a dead animal and trying to give it medicine. This is the ultimate definition of biological insanity. The past does not exist anywhere except in the faulty electrical wiring of your own brain. When you obsess over your past trauma, you're simply firing old neural pathways and commanding the universe to rebuild the exact same trauma in your future timeline. Neville Goddard taught the supreme art of complete revision and absolute psychological detachment. You do not heal your past. You mentally amputate your past. You physically force your brain to drop the heavy bags of your financial history. You must look at the person you were yesterday, and you must view them as a completely different biological entity that has absolutely nothing to do with you. The new version of you was born today, and this new version comes fully equipped with the psychopathic apathy of extreme wealth. You do not carry the deep wounds of the terrified worker. You only carry the cold and heavy certainty of the universal air. The physical matrix cannot hold you back when you completely refuse to acknowledge the history of your own existence. You must declare a state of total biological amnesia regarding your poverty. If your logical mind attempts to remind you of how much money you lost last year or how much debt you currently owe, you must treat your own mind like a liar. You must forcefully overwrite the memory with the assumption that you have always been incredibly wealthy. You do not explain your current lack of money to yourself, and you do not seek comfort for your current situation. You simply amputate the sick limb of your old identity without using any emotional anesthesia. You let the old version of you bleed out and disappear into the void while you remain seated on the throne of your new reality. You are not broken, and you have never been broken. You simply forgot that you were the architect, and you accidentally started acting like the brick. The era of the crying patient is permanently over, and the era of the cold commander has officially begun. We must now study the exact psychological mechanism that the global financial elite use to maintain their massive wealth, even when they make severe financial mistakes. We will call this mechanism the biological bypass. When a normal working-class individual makes a terrible financial decision, they spend years punishing themselves. They carry a heavy biological burden of guilt, and they believe they must perform deep spiritual work to forgive themselves for the error. They write long apology letters in their journals, and they beg the universe for a second chance. This behavior is a massive display of biological weakness. When a billionaire makes a massive mistake and loses millions of dollars in a single day, they do not perform a spiritual forgiveness ritual. They do not sit in a circle and attempt to heal their inner child. They simply execute a biological bypass. They completely bypass the emotional trauma of the mistake because they operate from the absolute assumption that their financial vault is infinitely deep. They view the loss of millions as a completely irrelevant mathematical error that the universe will automatically correct tomorrow. They refuse to internalize the loss. They refuse to make the mistake a permanent part of their biological identity. You must adopt this exact same psychopathic arrogance regarding your own financial history. If you spent your entire life completely broke, you must simply bypass that historical data. You do not need to forgive yourself for being poor, and you absolutely do not need to heal the years of struggle. You simply override the old data with the cold, dictatorial command of your new identity. The process of dropping your old identity is not a process of healing. It is a process of brutal biological amputation. If you have a physical limb that is deeply infected with deadly gangrene, you do not sit in a chair and send positive healing energy to the dead flesh. You do not try to transmutate the infection into light. You understand that the dead tissue is actively trying to kill your entire physical body. The only logical medical response is to take a sharp blade and completely amputate the infected limb. You must cut away the dead flesh so the rest of the body can survive. Your entire history of poverty and your deep emotional trauma regarding money is the biological equivalent of gangrene. It is completely dead neurological tissue that is actively poisoning your current manifestation. You cannot heal your poverty trauma by thinking about it and analyzing it. You must mentally amputate your entire history of financial lack. You must sever the neurological connection to your past without using any emotional anesthesia. You must look at the terrified and broken version of yourself, and you must completely cut them out of your psychological framework. You leave the old identity behind in the dirt, and you walk forward into your new reality with supreme apathy. The human herd will tell you that this amputation is cruel and that you must honor your past struggles. The human herd is deeply in love with their own gangrene. They wear their trauma like a badge of honor, and that is exactly why they will die in absolute poverty. You must refuse to honor your disease. You amputate the past, and you never look back at the severed pieces. As you listen to this brutal medical metaphor, your primitive brain might be fighting back with intense biological resistance. Your ego is deeply addicted to your personal story of suffering. If your physical chest feels tight right now, or if your logical mind is screaming that your specific trauma is special and requires deep healing, you are currently being sabotaged by your own nervous system. Your old identity is fighting for its life and attempting to drag you back into the hospital of the working class. You must stop this biological rebellion immediately before it completely destroys your new neural foundation. I have created a specific identity severance protocol designed to forcefully shut down your trauma response and lock your nervous system into the cold state of the universal air. Scroll down to the pinned comment below this video right now. Read the exact text of the identity severance protocol and execute the mental command. This specific action will serve as a physical circuit breaker for your biological guilt. Do not attempt to continue listening to this audio until you have engaged the protocol and severed the connection to your past. If you skip this crucial step, your primitive brain will completely reject the rest of this advanced programming, and you will remain permanently enslaved by your own history. Execute the severance protocol and return to this exact moment. Now that you understand why your daily routine keeps money away, we must permanently destroy the exhausting myth of mystical effort. The modern spiritual community has invented thousands of highly complex manifestation routines designed to trick the universe into delivering wealth. Desperate spiritual workers believe they must listen to specific audio frequencies like 963 Hz before they fall asleep. They believe they must engage in highly specific breathing routines to push imaginary fire through their biological organs and activate their pineal gland. They believe they must force their brain to enter a theta brainwave state to successfully plant an image in their subconscious mind. This obsession with mystical effort is the ultimate biological signature of a terrified slave. When you perform these highly complex rituals, you are proving to the universe that you believe manifestation is incredibly difficult. You are treating the universe like a strict and angry master that demands a perfect magical performance before it will pay you your wages. You are turning the simple law of assumption into a desperate manual labor job. A true sovereign king does not perform a secret audio ritual to convince his own servants to bring him his food. The king simply sits on the throne and expects the food to arrive. The old money elite do not activate their pineal gland to maintain their massive fortunes. They simply hold the heavy and boring assumption that the money is already theirs. You must immediately stop using spiritual techniques as a form of hard labor. Neville Goddard taught the state akin to sleep merely as a gentle way to bypass the analytical mind. He never intended for it to become a stressful and complex biological performance. When you lay in your bed and you violently try to force an image of a luxury mansion into your third eye, you are emitting a massive frequency of desperation. You are trying to force the three-dimensional reality to change through sheer mental pressure. The quantum field does not respond to your mental pressure. The quantum field only responds to your heavy assumption of normal reality. You must strip away all the mystical nonsense from your manifestation routine. You do not need a specific frequency, and you do not need perfect posture. You simply need to assume the cold feeling of the wish fulfilled, and then you must drop the subject completely. You must treat the manifestation of extreme wealth as the most boring and natural event in your entire biological existence. This brings us to the final psychological barrier you must destroy. You currently view physical money as a highly spiritual and magical entity. You believe that money carries a high vibration and that you must elevate your own consciousness to match the glorious frequency of wealth. This is a complete and total biological delusion. Money is not an enlightened spiritual master. Money is completely dead matter. It is a collection of cheap paper printed by human institutions, and it is a series of digital numbers stored on primitive computer servers. It has absolutely zero consciousness, and it has absolutely zero spiritual power. The financial elite understand that money is nothing more than a lifeless mechanical tool designed exclusively to execute their physical commands. When you treat money as a highly spiritual energy, you place it on a massive pedestal above your own head. You bow down to the digital numbers, and you beg them to enter your life. You literally make yourself the biological subject of a dead object. You must completely demystify the concept of wealth. You must look at millions of dollars, and you must see them for exactly what they are. They are dead structural components of the three-dimensional matrix. You do not need to raise your vibration to acquire dead matter. You simply need to issue a dictatorial command to the blind machine of the universe. When you strip away the magical aura of money, your primitive brain will instantly stop fearing it. Your nervous system will realize that it is completely illogical to experience biological terror over a piece of paper or a digital screen. You will begin to interact with the concept of extreme wealth using the exact same psychopathic apathy that you use to interact with your physical furniture or your shoes. You assume the physical objects are yours, and you expect them to serve your needs without question. This complete biological demystification is the true secret of the ruling class. They are not more spiritual than you, and they are not more aligned with the universe. They simply refuse to worship the dead tools they use to build their empires. You must adopt this cold, mechanical perspective. You are the supreme, infinite consciousness, animating a physical body, and money is just the dead dirt beneath your feet. We must now explore the exact biological phenomenon that occurs when you permanently amputate your financial trauma and fire yourself from the job of spiritual healing. When you completely stop trying to fix your internal state and you completely stop fighting your negative emotions, your primitive brain will experience a massive neurological shock. For your entire physical life, your nervous system has been deeply addicted to the constant production of cortisol and adrenaline. Your brain was entirely obsessed with scanning your three-dimensional reality for financial danger, and then creating highly complex spiritual routines to heal that danger. When you suddenly remove the danger, and you refuse to perform the healing rituals, your brain enters a terrifying state of biological withdrawal. You will suddenly experience a profound and heavy psychological void. You will wake up in the morning, and you will realize that you have absolutely nothing to worry about and absolutely nothing to fix. You will look at your life, and you will feel a deep and unsettling emptiness. The human herd and the modern psychological industry will tell you that this emptiness is a symptom of clinical depression or severe dissociation. You must completely ignore the human herd. This heavy biological void is not depression. It is the absolute highest level of neurological mastery. It is the true Sabbath that the teacher Neville Goddard described. The Sabbath is not a day of the week, and it is not a temporary feeling of spiritual relief. The true Sabbath is the permanent death of your manifestation effort. It is the comfortable and psychopathic void where your brain completely stops producing the electrical friction of desire. When you exist in this heavy void, you literally lose the physical ability to care about your own financial history. The topic of extreme wealth becomes incredibly boring to you because your nervous system recognizes it as a completely solved mathematical equation. You stop trying to attract the millions because the primitive desire to have money has been entirely replaced by the cold biological certainty of already owning it. You must learn to deeply enjoy this terrifying silence. You must sit on your internal throne and allow your primitive brain to panic about the lack of problems. Your brain will desperately try to offer you old memories of poverty just to get a hit of cortisol. It will remind you of a past failure or a terrible financial mistake. When the brain offers you this dead data, you must practice the advanced art of voluntary amnesia. Voluntary amnesia is the ultimate expression of your dictatorial authority over the physical dimension. The three-dimensional world is a delayed mirror that only reflects the files you choose to keep active in your mental hard drive. If you keep the file of your financial trauma active, the mirror must continually reflect it. You must permanently delete the file. You must act with such psychopathic arrogance that you literally convince your nervous system that you have never experienced a single day of poverty in your entire existence. If a family member or a friend attempts to bring up your past financial struggles in a conversation, you must look at them with completely dead eyes. You must treat them as if they are speaking a completely foreign language or suffering from a severe hallucination. You absolutely do not engage in their conversation, and you do not defend your past actions. You project an aura of total biological confusion because the wealthy architect you have become possesses absolutely zero memory of the peasant they are describing. You must gaslight your own reality. You must force the physical world to accept that your history of lack is a complete illusion. When you refuse to validate the past, the quantum field is mathematically forced to disconnect you from that dead timeline. The past literally ceases to exist because there is no conscious observer providing the electrical energy required to keep it alive. As you maintain this voluntary amnesia and you rest in the heavy void of the Sabbath, you will trigger a massive mechanical shift in the blind machine of the universe. The physical matrix is essentially a highly advanced algorithm designed to match your internal frequency. For years, the matrix sent you financial disasters and painful lessons because your internal frequency was broadcasting the identity of a broken student who needed to be healed. The matrix was simply giving the student exactly what the student requested. But when you mentally amputate the trauma and you enter the cold apathy of the universal air, the algorithm completely breaks down. The blind machine attempts to send you a small financial problem to test your frequency. It expects you to cry and it expects you to perform a desperate spiritual ritual. Instead, you look at the problem with the dead eyes of an apex predator, and you feel absolutely nothing. You do not try to transmutate the energy, and you do not look for the hidden spiritual lesson. You simply ignore the problem as a highly boring administrative error. The machine immediately registers a zero emotional response. The algorithm instantly updates its data and realizes that you can no longer be manipulated by the illusion of physical trauma. It realizes that the broken student is permanently dead and the sovereign ruler has taken the throne. Because the universe has absolutely no choice but to obey the dominant internal state, it must immediately submit to your new identity. It will completely stop sending you painful financial lessons because a powerful king does not require lessons from a dead mechanical servant. The universe will instantly collapse the wave function of your reality and reorganize the physical matter to match your heavy expectation of extreme wealth. You will witness the physical environment bending and breaking its own logical rules to rapidly deliver your massive resources. Strangers will be moved across the globe to serve your new financial empire, and highly complex human institutions will mysteriously align to force millions of dollars into your physical bank accounts. This sudden and violent influx of extreme wealth brings you to the ultimate biological test. When the massive amounts of physical money finally arrive, you must absolutely maintain your psychopathic apathy. You must never act surprised, and you must never celebrate. Surprise and celebration are the biological signatures of a terrified peasant who accidentally found a piece of gold in the mud. A powerful psychopathic emperor is never surprised when his loyal servants deliver his basic daily taxes. The emperor simply expects the taxes to arrive. If you react to your massive financial windfall with tears of joy or intense biological relief, you instantly destroy your new neurological architecture. You prove to the blind machine that the money is a shocking anomaly, and you are still fundamentally wired for poverty. You must receive these massive financial resources with the cold, mechanical indifference of someone who is simply collecting what is legally theirs by universal right. You open your digital banking application, and you look at the millions of dollars resting in your account, and you force your heart rate to remain completely steady. You view the immense fortune as a highly boring structural component of your normal physical reality. You did not experience a spiritual miracle, and you were not saved by a loving deity. You simply hacked the biological code of your own nervous system, and you forced the physical matrix to obey your dictatorial command. You must now realize the absolute magnitude of what you have accomplished. You have permanently murdered the spiritual worker. You have completely destroyed the false ego that took pride in suffering and healing. You now understand that there is absolutely no nobility in poverty, and there is no spiritual honor in trauma. Healing is a trap designed for the slave class, and you have officially resigned from the slave class. You have bypassed the hospital of the three-dimensional world, and you have walked directly into the royal vault. You will never again trade your vital electrical life force for the weak and pathetic feeling of human closure. You will never again perform a desperate spiritual ritual to beg the dead matter of the universe for a favor. You have finally assumed the ultimate throne of apathy. The infinite subconscious mind has already prepared the entire vast financial kingdom for your permanent arrival, and you have finally accepted the heavy keys to the vault with completely dead eyes. The Universal Testament is officially executed, and your extreme inheritance is permanently secured. You must now seal this cold psychopathic reality into the dense physical dimension by performing one final act of total psychological dominance. This specific physical action is absolutely not a desperate plea to the universe, and it is not a weak expression of spiritual healing. It is a direct written dictatorial command to solidify your new biological amnesia in the material world. Scroll down to the comment section of this video right now. You will not write a long emotional paragraph explaining your past trauma or your journey of healing. You will type exactly 8 specific words to confirm your new supreme status and to permanently lock the dead neural pathway into place. Type the exact phrase, "My routine is dead, and I expect millions." Do not add any other words or emotional expressions or weak spiritual symbols. By typing this cold dictatorial command, you are driving a permanent neurological stake into the dense ground of the physical world. You are publicly declaring to the blind machine of the universe that your desperate manifestation routine is permanently cancelled, and you are ready to govern your vast physical matrix. Execute the final dictatorial command in the comments right now, and if you want to know exactly how the universe mechanically rearranges the physical matter behind the scenes when you adopt this psychopathic apathy, click the video that is appearing on your screen right now. The biological programming continues there.